Hi, I'm James Siniak, and I'm your U.S. Senate candidate here in Indiana. Excited to be with you for another online town hall. These town halls are for you, so if you have questions or concerns, please send those in the group chat, and we'll address the questions as we can and have time. We have a lot of exciting things happening. First, I want to mention the event that's happening on the 30th, this Saturday. We're going to tear a hole in Top Guns, and we're hyped to start our 2A tour. I believe that the 2A is under attack right now by our current incumbent and by those in Congress. So we need elected officials to be able to defend that. And now is the time to stand up. So if you want to protect your constitutional rights, including the Second Amendment, consider voting Libertarian this election cycle. As always, please welcome Chris Groff behind the scenes. He's back from vacation and is helping me out on these town halls. Welcome, Chris. How was your vacation? How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. It was nice to get away for a week, but Liberty never sleeps, so I was still moving up on everything.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Saturday. It should be a good time. Hopefully, see a bunch of people come out and possibly might have a couple of signs there.
I mean, it's guns and ice cream. You can't go wrong with guns and ice cream.
That's true. If you had some tacos, it might be a little better, but that's just me. Guns, tacos, ice cream. It just sounds like a good time.
I think I saw something on Facebook today about chocolate tacos going out of business and everybody going to buy them. Was that a thing today?
Yep. It's really unfortunate because chocolate tacos are pretty fire.
I actually don't know if I've ever had one.
Well, I'll see if I can't find some. We'll have some chocolate tacos. But now that we're past the usual small talk and the fun stuff, why don't we get into what we were planning on talking about this week?
For sure. Inflation, it's in the minds of voters, and I think it's the number one issue being polled. There's been a lot of issues that come up this election cycle, but ultimately, inflation is really hurting Hoosiers and hurting Americans, and we really need to do something about it. The White House isn't very strong on this issue. Todd Young's not very strong on this issue, and we have some very serious concerns. Number one, we're going to talk about rebranding. The White House wanted to rebrand what a recession actually is. And despite whatever textbook definition you use or best fits your narrative of what's happening, it does not change what is happening to Hoosier wallets. And I'll give an example. I went to the grocery store. I think I bought 7 items and it ended up to be $40. And we're talking about 7 items that were necessities: toilet paper, food items. And it wasn't even food for a week. It was food for maybe 2 days. So I know Hoosiers are feeling this in their wallets. I know that it's a very great concern. And I think that it's a grave mistake of the White House to not address it for what it is. It's absolutely a recession, and we really need economic stability in Washington, D.C. Todd Young's solutions are not solutions at all. He even talks about the bill he just passed as a potential to help with the supply chain issues. And when we talk about the supply chain issues, a lot of these bills, the companies are saying won't even affect them for 36 months. So we're talking 3 years, and we need immediate results. And ultimately, to do this, we have to cut deficit spending. We got to cut what the Fed is printing, and we have to really bring accountability to Washington and how they're spending our money, because that's how you slow inflation. That's how you bring money back, the value of your money back. And without serious intent on this issue, we're not going to get anywhere except for the usual politics of blaming the other side, which is what I see this election cycle. Both want to blame the other side. White House doesn't want to take responsibility. Republicans don't want to acknowledge how much they spent, including Todd Young, who spent more than Bernie Sanders. So what can we do about this issue, and what serious actions do we need to take? Chris Groff, do we have any questions coming in or concerns?
Not so far. Just putting out there that Todd Young is close to 11 trillion in deficit spending, while also telling Hoosiers he doesn't care about them unless they're good photo ops and donors.
It's true. When we see Todd Young's campaign strategy, all his dinners, are for large donors. I haven't really seen him go out to the average Hoosier yet. And that's really intriguing to me because that's who he's accountable to. He's accountable to all Hoosiers. Why is he not addressing Hoosiers? As far as I know, he has not addressed the debates that so I challenged him to 3 debates. It was a public press release. I know Tom McDermott's willing to debate, and we haven't heard anything from Todd Young. Why is this? He needs to be accountable to the Hoosier voter, and this is very serious. So yeah, unless you have about couple thousand to spare, maybe 10,000. It seems like you can't really get heard by Todd Young.
Well, you're going to need more than 10,000 because they won't even let you in the door for $10,000. You're a low donor at 10 grand.
Exactly.
But while we are speaking on the deficit and everything, I know a lot of people have probably seen the Indiana government, state government, sending out the $225 per person out of their $6.1 billion surplus. And even doing that, going off of the census data of how many people live in Indiana, that is only going to cut into that surplus by about 1.56 billion. So why aren't we doing more to give our money back to us to help with the inflation that they caused?
I mean, there's a lot of concerns that are happening in Indiana, and that's just one of them. They could be giving more back, but ultimately, I'd like them to not take as much in the first place. We need more accountability, and Indiana, as Republican as they are not fiscally doing the best for Hoosiers. So hopefully, we can see change in voters and see them shift to people who actually want to make a change in the economy and bring back your money to yourself. Um, Taxation, it's part of society, but we don't have to tax at the rates we are. And Indiana is a perfect example of that. We have a surplus. Why are we taxing to the amount that we are?
Why are we taxing to the point where we have a $6.1 billion surplus?
And I'd like to point out Indiana roads still aren't fixed. So
The 6.1 billion is definitely not going towards roads.
So what about the common argument taxation? We need it for roads. Well, we have a huge surplus, and you look at our roads in Indiana. Um, we really aren't doing that great on roads either. So I want to know where taxation's actually going, and I know where it's going. A lot of crony things are happening, both in Indiana and Washington. So we definitely need to bring more accountability to that.
And I think Rachel put it best here, because the government is greedy.
They are. Power brings greed, and greed brings power, and it's just a vicious cycle that's not serving the taxpayer.
So we did finally get our first question from Larry Silver Jr. What are your thoughts on Joe Biden's gas tax holiday proposal?
Oh, let's not have a holiday. Let's just make it a permanent tax cut. I the tax we've talked a lot about gas tax holidays, and I'm all for a gas tax holiday if it helps with the price of the pump. But like we were just saying, we're bringing in Indiana specifically, which has one of the highest gas taxes in the nation. If you look at it, it's on par with Illinois, on par with the states that actually tax the highest. So really, what we're seeing is taxation that is not representing the Hoosier. And yeah, I think that when we talk about the tax holiday, I would like to turn that tax holiday into a permanent vacation, retire it.
That sounds like the best thing to do. I mean, that definitely would help how much it hurts every time I have to fill my car up with gas.
I think I'm trying to think of the last number I saw because it just increased. I want to say it was 68 cents before the increase on every tank of gas, and it just increased, and I have to adjust that number for that increase. But when you think about it, 68 cents on every single gallon you're spending, you fill up, let's just say minimal 10 gallons. That's $6 you're spending every single time at the pump on taxes alone. That's insane to me. I fill up at least twice a week. I do a lot of driving. Sometimes it's 3 times a week because of the campaign trail. But it was 1.5 even before I was on the campaign trail, and that's $9 every week I'm spending on taxes. That really could benefit Hoosier wallets.
Well, and that $9 that is not fixing our roads. Pretty
Exactly.
sure you can fill in a pothole for $9. So if you fill up once a week, there should be one pothole filled a week,
There you go.
just with your money.
You heard it from Chris. I agree.
Coming up with solutions to fix it all. Not that they're the best solutions, but it's something. I don't have any loaded questions this week.
No, you're good. I wanted to discuss Todd Young's, I think it was $63 billion proposal for um, his war on China. What do you have on that
On the war on China for the semiconductors.
for the semiconductor specifically?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we spent, I don't remember the number now. It was what, 2 years ago? We sent a couple billion towards making semiconductors, and yet we're wanting to now dump another, I think, when it's 6 billion?
60
60.
billion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I
I
saw
saw
two different numbers. I saw 50 billion and 60 billion. I'd have to double check which one's the accurate one. But what's crazy to me is, as much as that's a crazy amount, right? The bill that Todd Young actually proposed. So he was the one that was proposing this bill. This is a scaled back version of that, and the original bill that he proposed was 250 billion. So we're talking a scaled back version that's still spending way too much of our money to really ultimately not help Hoosier wallets. And it's crony capitalism is what it is. I'm all for capitalism, but when it's crony capitalism and politicians are interfering in the market, it is not a solid solution. What it is a handout for an already industry that's already succeeding. Most of these jobs are already those who have college degrees and are already doing well, and it's economically not sustainable. And when we look at the numbers, this is why we're in inflation. We're having the inflation rates we have right now. We are in a recession, and it feels like this that we really need to look at the waste. When they use
Well,
fancy words of, oh, it's a war with China, or it's going to help in this area. What they really want to do is they want to scare you into making it okay that they spend the money that they're spending.
well, and here's my thoughts. If we spent X trillion, billion, whatever we spent prior, I want to say it was like 135 billion. Yeah, something around there. Anyways, that was 2 years ago. We did that to fix it, and yet the problem's not fixed. So what's another 60 billion going to put in this? Because the way I see it is this just takes it right back to basic economics, the supply and demand. The supply for semiconductors right now is super high. People need them, but yet the government is restricting places from being able to make these semiconductors to sell them to meet the demand that we're currently at.
So let's talk about the semiconductor problem in the first place. Chris, we discussed this a little bit on Monday. But what caused the issue in the first place? We actually go back to, and I'm going to mispronounce the company's name. Do you remember the company's name?
Huawei.
Huawei. So we initially put restrictions on Huawei, and ultimately there was an issue. And China said, "Look, this is not good for us, so we're going to stockpile semiconductors." And so they did exactly that in response to what the U.S. government did. So initially, all this started because the U.S. put a ban on this specific trade, this specific company, and China said, "Well, we have to compete. We're going to stockpile." This was before COVID. COVID hits, demand for laptops goes up, demand for just general semiconductors in general goes up, and now we have an issue. And China actually has more semiconductors. So now, in order to fix a problem that our government caused, we're going to spend more money to try to compete with an already a market that we already messed up. So the issue started with the government itself, and now they're trying to fix it. And this is what happens when the government fixes their own problems. They create a problem, they fix it with more money, and then create even more problems. So it's an interesting vicious cycle that's not serving taxpayers at all.
Not even a little bit. Because if we've already dumped $130 billion and that didn't fix it, I don't think 60 more is going to fix it. Maybe they should get out of the way and let the entrepreneurs in the United States handle this.
Well, and through one report I read, one of the companies that was going to benefit from this bill actually said it'd take up to 36 months for anything to actually happen with this money. So we're talking 3 years in the future anyway. The free market can move faster than that. We know that.
Right.
So,
Well, and this is America. I mean, if I want it, I want it now.
right.
Somebody will go out there and maybe, let's Elon Musk, someone like that. They're going to go out here, and if they're like, hey, I can make a lot of money off of semiconductors, and they've got the capital and they dump it, they're going to have semiconductors out the door the next day, unless the government tells them they're not allowed to.
Absolutely. Again, this is an online town hall, so we love to hear your questions, your comments, and we even have an option for you to go to live with us. If you want to go live, be our first viewer to do that. That would be awesome. But again, online town hall, so submit those questions.
So we do have one question here, and I will mispronounce the name, so I'll just put it on the screen. James, as you tour and speak with Indiana Republican voters, are they starting to realize there's absolutely nothing conservative about Republicans? Are they actually waking up like they did with rainwater?
So the simple or the fast answer is it's complex, um, but ultimately a lot of voters are waking up. And what surprises me is the messages that I put before out were all true. That he's spending more than Bernie Sanders, and that he's not protecting Hoosier rights as he should. But a lot of Hoosiers were still slow to see what Todd Young was. And what really changed momentum in Indiana was when he voted against the 2A. And this shocks me because economically, right now, we're in an economic crisis. So I was surprised that it took this long for them to see his spending habits and how he's spending uh, like Democrats, and now his policies align a lot with the Democrats, especially for big government and taking away your freedoms. So there are voters that are waking up. We still have to battle with the idea that, well, I have to vote R so D doesn't get in. But if your R is actually worse than a D, I don't understand that thinking. So it's a lot of grassroots movement. It's a lot of re-educating people, pointing them to look at the facts. I think facts really allow people to see what's happening, and people are waking up. Earned media has been really good and making our message aware, but it's still a lot of work, and we're not going to stop in November.
It's very exhausting work too. But I can
It
tell
is.
you.
It is. Every night you can ask Chris. I'm doing something. My team is doing something. Long hours, putting in, getting back at midnight, waking up to go to my day job, and then doing it all over again. So we're putting in the work.
Usually, message has to go out to tell James to go to sleep.
But yeah, we're putting in the work, and I am sure that by November, every Hoosier will hear my name and have a better option than the current incumbent. One that actually wants smaller government, one that actually wants tax reductions, and wants you to keep your freedoms. So Todd Young is none of that, and we have some serious concerns when it comes to our freedoms and our constitutional rights.
Well, I can tell you a lot of Republicans, I don't know that they're 100% looking at the libertarian ticket or anything like that, but I do know they're looking at James. I know they're looking at Jeff Moore because they see the things now that are going wrong between Todd Young. I mean, it's wild how
Well,
people are reacting.
there's a lot of concerns on the Secretary of State race as well. You mentioned Jeff Moore; he's getting his name out, but people are noticing the concerns within the Republican Party. They're not the conservatives that were made out to be 10 years ago. Many are not financially um, doing the right things for Hoosiers. So we really have to hone our message and make sure that every single voter understands that.
Absolutely. So we do have another one, and I know this one's right in your wheelhouse. How can we get mental health care reform?
So it is. Mental health is very important to me. And this goes back to a lot of the issues, right? If we want to reduce abortions, if we want to reduce mass shootings and violence, mental health is the number one concern in America. And ultimately, what I look at is how do we improve the mental health state of Indiana and our nation? And big government isn't the answer. Giving people opportunities and innovation is giving them more resources, which giving them more taxes is, but also making sure that the message out there is if you do need mental health, there's nothing wrong going to a counselor. There's nothing wrong with seeking that help. And we have to make those resources available. And it's really important. And it's an important message that we need to get out.
I completely agree because my son he's got a few mental health issues that we're working through. Luckily, we caught him fairly early, so he's out. And I mean, we go to a therapist every week. He sometimes goes 2 times a week. He's constantly with his counselor in school. I mean, and it's all been wonderful. The help that we've actually gotten, we got really lucky, and all the help we were able to find. But it's expensive to do, and that might go a little bit with inflation. That price tends to get a little higher every day, but it's something definitely I believe needs to be fixed to where people have access to these resources when they need them and not when it's too late.
Absolutely. Paul has a follow up question. How can we get mental health care reformed in our state and America as a whole, James? Um, it's a good question and it's a complex issue. But the one I really want to point out is I do have a very specific plan for veterans, and I want to get my vet care program through. That's one of my first priorities. And specifically for veterans, I say this because they go through a lot mentally. We see high suicide rates, we see high homeless rates. Coming back to civilian life has been very difficult. And anybody who just lives in their neighborhood can understand that it's very complex with mental health for veterans. So my vet care program actually does fix this issue. What it does is it gives veterans a veterans personal care account, which works very similar to a house savings account. But I direct that and I make sure that they know that it's absolutely essential for them to get mental health help, and that this fund can be used for not just physical needs, but mental needs for PTSD and those concerns as well. So we do have a plan that's written for veterans, and we're working to make sure that that will go through. Um, it is a complex issue. We have to look at healthcare as a whole system for everybody, and a lot of it is we actually need to open up beds to the free market. We have a system right now where the government controls exactly how many hospital beds are in an area, and how much services you can get within your area. So we see a great need, and we need to open up that system so that more people can get access to the care that they need.
Because that's important. That's a basic human right is being able to take care of yourself, and if you can't, then find somebody that can help you.
Right, and the more we make those mental health resources available, the better off our society will be. Um, I saw a comment from Paul. I appreciate it. Thank you for your donation. If people want to donate, you can go to www.ceniacforsenate.com/donate. Another great way to support the campaign is to go to my shop and purchase. There's all kinds of products you can purchase: mugs, stickers, buttons,
Swim trims.
signs. We do get a kickback for our campaign, and you get a great product. So um, get the word out, shop at the store, donate online. We have some very specific needs. Some of those are advertising needs. We're trying to look at billboards currently so that we have those billboards up. And then, in addition to that, we have shall not infringe yard signs that we are fundraising for. and of course, gas to get us across the whole Hoosier state. Speaking of the whole Hoosier state, I will be in Vanderburg this Saturday after their Top Gun in Terre Haute. So we are doing a lot of traveling, and we do need some money for that gas.
Because, like we talked earlier, gas isn't cheap.
No, and even though it's going down, it's still more expensive than it was, and it's
Last
still,
year,
yeah, it's still affecting Hoosier wallets. So um, it's definitely a concern, and we really need both on the campaign level, the financial help, but ultimately that messaging to get you more of your money back.
it looks like we have, I believe it's Lael, talking about the Mental Health America of Hendricks County, which is local in mine, that I'm just learning about, for veterans. That it's a social club twice a month, food, computers, art therapy, and things like that. I think are more things that we do need in our counties, in our state in general. Like, these are just services that we can provide to help. Maybe not we. I couldn't do it because I don't know anything about it, but I can support it.
But we do need to look at our communities and the resources that we can have to help those communities, and get people help. A lot of it, you know, is something that we can do just ourselves right now, and setting up areas where there are social clubs to help support each other. I was just talking with someone who was concerned about the COVID impacts on mental health, and how a lot of younger individuals are depressed because they had to stay home for so long, and there's a lot of mental health issues. But a lot of these clubs and therapy sessions and peer supports are ways that we can get help to each other and reach out to each other and build our communities. I also saw on the comments about EAP services, um, there is often free sessions with your healthcare provider through your work, and a lot of people are not aware of that. I remember going back to one of my employers and saying, "Look, I need to do something for my mental health," and they directed me to these services. But not every employer will acknowledge that these services exist. Often they do, and you can get free sessions. So definitely, if you are struggling, look for that to see if your EAP provides that.
It's very necessary in these days, especially after COVID. I know after being home for so long, it was just, it's too much. Like, I'm not huge on wanting a ton of social interaction. I'm one of those people. I'm perfectly fine being at home until I'm told I have to be at home. When I'm told, then I'm like, but now I don't want to. I want it to be my choice. And luckily, I mean, with the way technology's advanced, you've got kids that, they play video games and they play online with their friends, so they still get some of that social interaction, which is great. I know I do it. I talk to my friends multiple times a day when we sit and just play games, or people getting on Zoom, anything like that, just to it helped a lot. At least I know it did with us, and I'm sure it helped with tons of other people.
Absolutely. The best thing we can do for our mental health is reach out to our neighbors around us,
Right.
reach out to our community, let others know that we're here. We have some of the same struggles that you do, and together we'll get through this. We'll help each other and encourage each other. We only have a couple more minutes left, Chris. So if any questions
That's
come
right.
in, feel free to shoot those so that we could uh, get those in at the last minute. But I wanted to remind people this Saturday, I will be at Top Gun in Terre Haute for a huge kickoff to fight for our Second Amendment rights. Todd Young's not strong on this issue. It's important that we do this, and it's important that we understand our constitutional rights. In addition to that, I'll be in Vanderburg on Saturday after that event. And you can meet me at either of those events. I would love to see you there. If
He
you,
loves to answer questions in person too. So if you
yeah,
have questions, bring them by.
absolutely. And I've been getting great questions on email as well. There were some that wanted me to define certain things I said in last town hall. I sent him an email today trying to explain what I meant by what I said, and they're great questions. So that's what we should be as public servants: is very accessible and willing to define how we're going to serve you in Washington.
We do have one more from Rachel. Will you be going to a shooting range at Indy at all?
We're working with ranges across all of Indiana, so hopefully one in Indy as well as the donut counties. We're going to hit as many shooting ranges as possible to just promote not just the 2A, but your rights and how to protect yourself. So if you've never shot a gun, feel free to come to one of those events, and we'll actually have people there that are willing to teach you. So that's a really important part of this as
I
well.
know, I know I'm working with one here in Avon to possibly see if we can't get an event there. So that would be a little bit localer for the donut area.
Lastly, I think I mentioned this earlier, but we did challenge Todd Young to 3 debates. If you guys do me a favor, promote 3 debates. We want to get that word out all across Indiana. We want 3 debates, and we want Todd Young to be accountable for his actions. We're gonna we're we're gonna be ready for these debates. We're gonna show up on stage and have Todd Young answer for some of the decisions he made. So if you can get on your Twitter or your Facebook, hashtag 3 debates, James Seniak for Senate, fresh, modern, approachable, and get the word out. We need Todd Young to face us and answer for the decisions he made in Washington, D.C. You can also catch the press release on my website, www.seniakforsenate.com. We are getting a lot of earned media, so look for different releases in your local newspapers and newspapers across the Hoosier State.
And feel free to send a letter to Todd Young telling him he should show up at the debates.
Absolutely. If you want to send an email to him, I would encourage that. He has not responded to any debate call yet, and that's disappointing because he is representing you currently, so he needs to be accountable for his actions.
I completely agree. I do hope he shows up. I think it will be interesting to see how he responds. But with that, I believe we're at our mark. I think we're gonna keep it a little short this week. We got a pretty busy week.
All right. So consider a fresh, modern approach to Washington, D.C. Consider Seniac for Senate. If you don't like what's happening in Washington, vote differently. Your vote does matter, and it matters this election cycle. We're in midterm elections, but that doesn't mean you don't vote. It means you should vote because that's how change is made. Vote Seniac for Senate and consider libertarians all the way across your ballot. We are looking to do great things in Washington, and we're looking to do great things in your local communities. I look forward to meeting you in person at many events across the Hoosier State. We are crisscrossing the whole entire state and are working to get to every single county in Indiana, not only to get my message out, but to fight for your freedom. Consider donating at www.seniacforsenate.com/donate. Those donations are very important to getting our message out, whether it's gas, signs, materials, billboards. All of that is essential, and we need money for that. My campaign is funded for the people, by the people, not corporate money, and I'm accountable to you, nobody else. Thank you for listening in tonight. Thanks for the great questions. We try to do these town halls every Wednesday at 7:30. If it's not on a Wednesday at 7:30, it's because I have another event. So we will adjust those accordingly, but we always announce it ahead of time on Facebook. Thanks again, everybody. Thank Chris for being here and helping me with the questions, and look forward to seeing you.